After the admittedly surprising success of the original game, it was now only a matter of time before the world would be blessed by the second coming of Naughty Dog's Orange Messiah. And so descended from the heavens, Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. Upon being exploded, falling from hundreds of feet in the air and smashing straight through the ground, somehow Cortex survives. And not just that, but he also ends up in a cave full of energy crystals, which does give him a sinister idea. Later, aboard his evil space station, Cortex discusses his next plan for world domination with his new lackey, Dr. Engine. Apparently, he intends to use the energy of the power crystals to charge up an oversized version of his Cortex Vortex brainwash ray that is now connected to the space station, and enslave all of the world's inhabitants. However, Engine points out that since they only have a single Master Crystal, they would also need additional 25 regular power crystals for their contraption to actually work. This, as it turns out, is going to be a bit of an issue, since Cortex doesn't have any loyal operatives on the planet at this moment. For some reason. I guess the supervillain Thug Union is on a strike or something. Either way, our dastardly villain knows just how to solve this problem.
Previously on Azrael Entertainment, our handsome and slightly out-of-shape hero was robbed of a prized possession, his Sony PlayStation 1, by a vile professor of literature named Nicola Context, who intended to use it in his nefarious ways to turn his underrated books into multi-billion-dollar game franchises. Somehow, eventually he was defeated by Azrael, who reclaimed his console and later faced a series of terrible tribulations, such as legal and medical issues that have forced us to unfortunately postpone the review you are currently watching for over a year. We are very sorry, and please enjoy the video.
Hello? Who's talking?
Your beloved friend, Nicola Context, of course.
Context? Really? What do you want from me?
Now hear me out. I'm a good guy now. An absolute champion of the people, I swear. The world is about to collapse. It's about to be destroyed. I need you to help me, Azrael. Collect 25 power crystals for me, and we'll be able to rescue the planet.
Listen, I really don't care. I'm on my work break and I'm not wasting that for anything. So,
No, don't drop the phone. No, the world is about to be destroyed, imploded, exploded, annihilated. Armageddon, skies falling.
listen, I really don't care. You're gonna save the world, Armageddon, I don't give a damn. Besides, the only reason I know you is because you stole from me and tried to kill me. So, anyway, goodbye now.
No, please don't drop the phone. Don't do anything, I swear. I'll pay you.
Ooh, you'll pay me what?
Money?
Ooh, I'm listening.
Well, I do have $5 in my back pocket.
Gee, that's all you had to say. While peacefully strolling through the jungle, Crash gets literally kidnapped via teleportation straight to Cortex's warp room, where Neo Cortex convinces Crash that the fate of the world is now at stake, and only by helping him collect the 25 power crystals that are scattered all over the world can it be saved. And so our fearless protagonist sets out on a perilous journey across the planet. Speaking of which, in order for Crash to travel into different parts of the world, he uses the aforementioned warp room, or technically warp rooms, I should say. There are 5 primary rooms with 5 level portals in each, which allows the player to choose in which order they would like to complete any given set of levels in one room before they get access to the next one. The very first level, discounting the short skippable segment at the very beginning of the game, is Turtle Woods, a very good introductory level that shows just how different the game is going to be compared to Crash 1. The controls are tweaked and absolutely improved, with a smoother movement, the introduction of full joystick support in the original, and of course the addition of crawl, belly flop, slide, and slide jump, all with the use of a circle button, which can also be additionally extended by spin jumping out of a slide, an unintended byproduct of the feature which can be used in the cheekiest of ways sometimes, especially by the speedrunning community. These control changes are an absolute godsend, and now at the end of every level there's also a box tally, telling you just how many crates exist in total in a given stage, which is incredibly useful for when you're trying to collect the box gems. The first level also introduces several new gameplay gimmicks, such as mud puddles, mole pits, and new enemy types, which masterfully utilize Crash's new controls, as some of them can only be killed using a certain move, making the players switch their attacks up on the fly. For example, some of the enemies like the bipedal lizards or those War of the Worlds looking robots can only be killed by sliding into them, while spiked cyborg turtles or pink pelicans require the player to jump on top of them. And the buzzsaw turtles can be killed by either spinning or sliding into them, your choice. This adds an unexpectedly wonderful bit of strategic approach to the gameplay. Additionally, we're also introduced to the revamped bonus stages that no longer require character tokens to enter, and can be retried unless the player had already completed it while in the level, as well as bonus-like underground areas which will later be reused for a very fun secret route in the level Unbearable, and as a setting for the purple gem route. On top of that, bonus stages and gems are no longer required to save your game like they were in Crash 1. This time, Naughty Dog have decided to finally give us the right to save our progress at any point during the playthrough, by simply using the giant save load screen in the warp room. So all the gem collecting is now far less stressful and is purely there for you to complete the game, unlock the true ending, feel really damn good, and that's not even mentioning that most gems thankfully do not require the one life challenges like before. And while we're on the topic of gems, Turtlewoods brings another glorious Crash 2 innovation to the table, that being secret solving. Because in order to get the blue gem as well as all the other colored gems, the players would need to discover for themselves several hidden ways to obtain them. For example, let's say you first go through the level in the most casual way possible. You get the crystal, then you choose to go back, break all the boxes, earn yourself that beautiful clear gem. But how do you get the blue gem though, huh? Well, you go back into the level again. This time maybe you try to rush through the stage or find a hidden area or whatever your initial theory may be. But upon reaching the end of the level again, you will see that the box tally reveals the truth. You are meant to go through the entire stage without destroying a single crate. And once it's done, at last, the first colored gem is yours. Also, upon collecting your very first gem in the game, you will be contacted by the hologram of Dr. Nitrous Brio, Neo Cortex's former lackey who now seeks retribution for the years of humiliating subservience he had endured under Cortex. You see, all this time, most of the evil inventions used by Cortex, like the very Evolve Array which was used to create Crash, were all created by Brio. However, much like the thieving scumbags who react to other people's content on the internet, Cortex shamelessly stole another man's invention just to reap the benefits. And now, having found a new gullible fool to exploit, he's merely using Crash for free labor, much like the aforementioned React YouTubers.
Oh, hello, Azrael. I'm so happy to see you're actually helping me. Oh, it will be most worth your time. Not to mention the $5 reward I promised, yes. So your first objective is to infiltrate an apartment of a certain garbage streamer who outputs a suspicious amount of energy, almost like he possesses a power crystal.
Colonel, I found the location. He must be in the possession of the power crystal.
Hand over the crystal right now! He's resisting arrest! Crystal acquired.
Brio, through his hologram, attempts to convince Crash to collect gems for him and informs the manic marsupial that Cortex has not changed from his evil ways one bit, and will simply use the crystals for his own vile ambition. However, our oblivious orange hero continues on his quest for the power crystals, even when his own sister tries to warn him of the same thing as well. Ah yes, Crash now has a sister, and as many of you know, she was added to the game because of a fierce conflict between Andy and Jason and a representative of Universal Studios who told them that given Tana Bandicoot's presence as a support character, she should not have such a promiscuous design. After some back and forth, Andy and Jason, not wanting to redesign Tana, decided to press the nuke character button and just yeet Tana out of the series, replacing her with a brand new support character in the face of Coco Bandicoot, Crash's little sister. And in the insane version of the original Crash trilogy, you can play as Coco throughout all 3 games because of some time travel related shenanigans we'll discuss in the next review. Understandably, Coco's just a reskin of Crash, a purely cosmetic change retaining the same controls but sprucing up and changing the visuals and animations all around. Which is such a nice way to add more variety to your playthrough and also to give Coco a way to participate in the adventure if the player so chooses. And I am very glad that this feature is now officially a mainstay and was used in the latest mainline Crash title, Crash 4 It's About Time. Speaking of features that have become mainstays, the original Crash 2 introduced us to a myriad of new forms of locomotion. Granted, Crash 1 technically did it first with its hog riding levels, and this mechanic was retooled for riding a cute little polar bear in the sequel. But Crash 2 also offers us actual vehicles, such as the now iconic jetboard and the highly contentious jetpack. Personally, I love these new additions. They do not overstay their welcome at all, unlike a couple titles we're going to discuss in future videos, and these levels add the much needed variety to Crash's escapades, which was admittedly missing in the previous game. As Crash gathers his first 5 crystals, it is revealed that most of the bosses this time around are mutants working for Dr. Brio, tasked with stopping the manic marsupial from getting the crystals needed for Cortex's evil plans. So, from a certain point of view, we're actually beating up innocent characters.
Wonderful job, Azrael. You've taken care of that worthless content creator in the most splendid of ways. I congratulate you. Anyway, your next objective is a family of 2, a lone father and a son. They've recently purchased 3 power crystals off of an auction. Please retrieve those crystals for me.
Boy, go get my beer.
Where are the crystals? The crystals, damn it! Where are the crystals? Where? What? The goddamn crystals! Oh, you actually killed them. A lone father and his only child. Wow, that's cold, even for me, and I'm a retired supervillain. Yeah, I'll send you the information regarding the remaining crystals now. Good job.
Hey, Az. I hope you're doing okay. I've filed a police report, but they still can't find you. But you've been missing for days. Can you please give me a call as soon as you get this?
The game's first boss is Ripper-Roo, our good old insane blue kangaroo returning from the first game. It seems that prior to the second game, much like the ending montage of Crash 1 suggested, he turned his life around, got a degree, and is now a renowned scholar. Well, until he's forced to face Crash, that is. Seeing Crash after what he had done to him in the previous outing, a walking reminder of his trauma, Roo relapses into his maniacal love for explosives. And after a very enjoyable, even if quite samey and repeat playthroughs, but still an undeniably fun and spectacle-filled encounter, Rue goes down at the blood-stained hands of Crash Bandicoot yet again. With the second warp room now unlocked, we get to experience more snow levels. Among them, the introduction to the one and only, the most adorable character in all of Crash Bandicoot, Polar the Polar Bear. First, you see this wonderful little fella in the warp room just sitting there in front of the portal to the level where you ride on his back to some absolutely banger tunes. And he's just sitting there. This is so cute, so innocent, so unsuspecting. And, oh no, 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 no. Why must you do this, Naughty Dog? Why? You see, there's a little hidden feature that can only be discovered by beating up Polar, and as a kid, the moment I saw that if you walk up too close to him or accidentally jump and land on him, Polar gets squashed in a very funny, cartoony sort of way and looks very sad. So I kept on jumping and curb-stomping his little innocent skull into the ground until from his carcass I was granted lives. Extra lives. In exchange for an innocent soul. No. Forgive me, little one, for what I must do.
Oh no! What have you done?
Hello? Hello? Oh my god, am I seriously on voicemail again?
And this time around, the animal riding levels are not limited to only running forward like in the first game. Now in one very specific instance, it's also combined with a signature staple of the Crash franchise, the chase levels. And while Crash used to only run away from giant boulders, one of the levels in Crash 2 has introduced some variety into the mix by making the player run away from the giant bloodthirsty polar bears. And at the end of this level, Crash will yoink the innocent bear cub from his resting place and proceed to start running away from his rightfully enraged parent, only to get away scot-free, the orange bastard. Overall, the difficulty of the game has been tweaked significantly. Not only do the now refined, smooth controls and an extended moveset make it so much more engaging to traverse the levels, but also the level layouts and their hazards have been made quite a bit less nerve-wracking. And of course, the aforementioned removal of requiring one life runs for every level, only leaving such requirement for the proto-time challenges, and reaching death routes, which is actually very fair. This and the divine gift of being actually able to save at any point you want without having to earn that privilege not only makes the game feel so much more approachable in terms of completion, throwing away that occasional sense of cheap difficulty the original had, but also makes the game very friendly for new players who might not have it in them to even finish, not complete, but simply finish the original Crash 1. And with just how significantly easier it is to finish the Cortex Strikes back, the average player will definitely see it through to the end, and might even be compelled to fully complete it in order to get the true ending, which we will get back to later. But now is the time we discuss the differences between the original and the insane versions of Crash 2. And I must say, while I do not personally hate the insane aesthetic like some people tend to, and understandably mind you, the original still looks fantastic due to its art direction, the well thought out and phenomenally executed style that will forever remain timeless. And unfortunately, the Insane trilogy lacks a unified artistic vision. A lot of the environments clearly reuse the assets and visual language from the later Skylanders games, a franchise I do actually really enjoy, which would not have been bad at all actually. Just look at how expressive the Skylanders models for Crash and Cortex are, and just how well they fit into the environment in the Thumpin' Wumpa Islands level of Skylanders Imaginators. But the Insane trilogy doesn't fully lean into its Skylanders aesthetic. In the vast majority of levels, it loses its focus and feels like it tries to mash together the styles of Skylanders with the environments and object shapes of the original Crash games, while attempting this weird, semi-realistic approach on top of it all. In trying to do too many things at the same time, the game fails to commit to any one of them. And it's honestly quite disheartening that this weird, devoid of a sharp silhouette covered in a very oddly rendered fur model of Crash with a mouth that just looks like an Aardman Studios claymation character, which really doesn't suit him, despite my adoration for Wallace and Gromit, was chosen over this sleek, energetic, and bursting at the seams with personality model from Skylanders, which captures the loony vibes of the original PS1 Crash while making it more contemporary and modern, a million times better than the insane Crash in my opinion. And as for other characters, the fur effect does make them feel very off. But other than that, most of them are actually decently designed. If you remove or lessen the fur and tweak their textures, they'll look pretty good. Which is what Beanox did in the CTR Nitro Fueled remake actually. This doesn't make the designs that much more expressive, but they already are way better designed than the unfortunately lackluster look for the titular character. Even his spinning animation looks jank as hell. The additional Crash body parts added for the smear effect aren't sped up enough, which just looks wrong. Coco, on the other hand, has no such issues, and her model in general is actually pretty dope, having a laptop in hand and a distinct lively pose for standing around, which gives her a lot of character, and a pretty good silhouette on top of that. Other than that, mechanically, the Insane Crash 2, while still having the same physics I ragged on last time, is much more manageable with a slide jump and the thankfully returning cheese strat of slide spin jumping. The music is yet again new, but playing by the notes of the original with a lighter instrumental, and this time it doesn't have such drastic differences in tone between the original and the remake like in Crash 1, so no complaints here. And the new additions are yet again the ability to play as Coco using the time machine from the future and the addition of time relics, which weren't present in the original. But this time, upon beating the final boss, Crash will be given one of the power-ups from the sequel, the Speed Shoes, making the orange lad run faster for the sake of acquiring the relics. Thankfully, just like in the remake of Crash 1, the relics were added for a bit of variety and replayability, and are not required for the true ending, so that's very nice. However, an additional reward for the relics in Crash 1 and 2 would have been a good thing to add. A joke ending cutscene or developer diary or something of that nature perhaps. But that is not an actual criticism against the game, just food for thought. Hell, I'll give the remake this. While during the original engine boss fight, Crash just spawns Wumpa Fruits from out of thin air or whatever dark void is housed within his murderous soul, the remake actually gives us a unique animation for throwing all the fresh produce straight at the angry Austrian's mech. Speaking of bosses, the encounters in this game are yet again immensely charming. I've already spoken of Ripperoo, and I absolutely love the character progression of him actually living up to his bio from the ending montage of Crash 1. Then we face the Komodo brothers, two scimitar-wielding mutated Komodo dragon lizards wearing elegant, downright royal Middle Eastern attire, and based in their luxurious quarters within what I imagine to be either some sort of palace, or maybe they just decorated some random room they're renting out in such a comfy way. I really enjoy their designs, and I wish they appeared in more good Crash games as proper boss fights. The third boss fight is the one and only Tiny Tiger, whose entrance is just undeniably badass. He bursts out onto the arena and Crash immediately knows that there is no way he's taking this buff beast of a mutant on in a fair fight. So the encounter is turned into a very fun platforming challenge aimed at tricking Tiny into falling. A very solid mechanic. Next up is the aforementioned Dr. Engine, who unlike all the previous enemies wasn't sent by Brio to defeat Crash. He was instead sent by Cortex, still pretending to be our ally as a middleman to get the crystals from us. But Crash, not believing that his now bestest friend in the whole wide down under would send some weird cyborg in a full-on war machine to get the crystals for him instead of coming himself. Or maybe Crash just wanted to bully the poor crippled victim of a rocket launch accident. Either way, Crash leaves Engine with further brain damage and fruit PTSD by throwing the Wumpus at the crucial parts of the Doctor's mech suit, forcing the equipment to jam and explode. And the final boss is of course the big-headed, sickly yellow scumbag himself, Dr. Cortex. In what has to be one of the most piss-poor excuses for a final boss in all of gaming, or at least within this series, unfortunately. As all it consists of is just chasing Cortex down a narrow path, smacking him in the arse 3 times, and that's it. A pretty dirty blemish on what is otherwise a great game. In the end, when playing either version of Crash 2, especially the original, I highly recommend actually going for the full completion, because what feels like a very light-hearted and breezy journey becomes a more complex and a really engaging adventure. Much like the first game, figuring out all the hidden box locations, colored gem routes, and other such secrets has such a wonderfully adventurous air to it. And very few games give me such a strong sense of going on an actual treasure hunt. This feeling that the original Crash trilogy gives me, the way it scratches this tomb raiding itch so well, is definitely one of the biggest reasons why I love going through the process of completing these games over and over again every year, or whenever the desire to do so just hits me out of the blue. It is an immensely satisfying journey to embark on, and I really hope you do. Granted, a criticism has been levied at the game that some of its secrets are way too hidden and that for some of them it's practically impossible to figure them out without a guide or pre-existing knowledge. But I don't entirely agree with this. For example, as stated previously, after the player has already acquired the standard box gem in level 1, the tally at the end will read as X out of 0 upon repeat playthroughs. Or the fact that in that one nitro staircase, not a single one of the green explosive crates is bouncing, which they should be doing otherwise, kind of inviting you to try that staircase. Or how that one spitting fly trap, whom we have already learned to kill only via belly flop, is on a separated island of a platform just off the main course, enough to make you want to pummel that cheeky wannabe sniper to death and accidentally stumble upon a secret portal. Though I do admit, for some secrets especially, there really should have been more of a prevalent hint. The fake wall in Eel Deal and backtracking back to touch Polar in Unbearable are the examples of this that spring to mind in my case first. Took me forever to figure those out as a kid, and the Polar one was actually something my mother told me about back then. So had there been more, even if cryptic but still somehow present hints for most secrets, then it would have honestly been perfect. Other than that, the original game's pacing, gameplay, atmosphere, music, level design, and visual art style all combine together to make a near perfect platformer in my opinion. Crash 2 is certainly the prime example of the things that make Crash work so damn well. And the only major points of criticism that I believe hold merit are the aforementioned lack of hints at some of the hidden elements and the final boss fight of the game. You know, let us talk more about the sheer shitty disappointment that is the fight against Dr. Neo Periwinkle Cortex at the end of Crash 2. You see, after going through the entire game utterly oblivious, Crash finally realizes that Cortex actually lied to him, and he isn't going to save the world, but only when we had already collected all the crystals and brought them to him. So the dastardly villain sets out back to his space station with our crystals, and Crash must stop him before he does so while chasing after him through space in a jetpack. And doesn't the boss fight in jetpacks in space, with the highest stakes so far? Cortex is literally minutes away from world domination. Doesn't that sound exhilarating? Well, it does. Too bad the actual fight is a complete whimper. As I said previously, and you can see right now, Crash pursues Cortex down a narrow tunnel-like path, and all he has to do is just smack Neo in his juicy ass 3 times in a row. And no, despite what it may seem on your first playthrough, the asteroids have nothing to do with it. It's not like you need to throw them at Cortex like with boulders in Kuala Kong's boss fight last game. You just dodge out of the way of the asteroids in an occasional mine, slap the shit out of Cortex, which can be done in an incredibly quick succession, and the only way to lose this fight is taking too long to catch up with the big-headed bastard and allowing him to reach the station. That's it. You cannot die in this boss fight. Which means, unless you, much like me back when I was a kid, are trying to throw the asteroids at Cortex and waste too much time, it's practically impossible to lose against Cortex. Like, come on, Cortex, fight back! Do something, anything to make this actually interesting! You literally have a gun in your hands, use it! Oh, but hold on a hot minute, the Insane remake gives him a crystal in place of his blaster. Woohoo! It's not like we would have gotten mad had you changed the boss fight for the better, VV. You all had an actual perfect opportunity to change something about the original to make it better. But what we end up with in either version of the game is a very, very poor final boss, unfortunately.
Asriel, you were on the news. Are you fucking kidding me? Seven orphanages blown up in Sweden. What the hell is wrong with you?
I've done terrible things. Things I'm not proud of in the slightest. But it will all matter. Because in the end, we will not only have saved the world, but I'll also get my $5. Alright, time to put on my best suit, shave, trim my hair, and look presentable for that paycheck.
Asriel, I must say there's something horribly wrong with you. Horribly wrong.
Hey, what's up, man? I got your crystals, did everything you asked. Now, my $5.
I kind of spent them all.
Shit, I'm out.
I think I'm having a heart attack.
That's it? However, despite the lackluster final encounter, the actual final true cutscene that is unlocked upon collecting every single gem in the game is really satisfying. Such a drastically wonderful departure from the lame letdown secret ending of Crash 1 that I have to applaud Naughty Dog for that. With all the gems we collected throughout our journey, we go to Dr. Brio and power his giant friggin' laser cannon and blast Cortex's space station apart. Ah, glorious. At this point, honestly, I do think I already said all I wanted to in regards to what is one of my favorite video games of all time. Well, at least all the most important bits. And when it comes to giving it a score, I must yet again reiterate that the original Crash 2 is almost perfect. Had there been more hints to make the adventure of treasure hunting for gems even more fun and intuitive, which the loading screen tips in the Insane Trilogy actually kinda do, though I'd have preferred had there been actual cryptic in-level hints in the original, and if the final boss wasn't an utter joke, the game would have been a 10 out of 10 without a single question. But with that said, the original Crash 2 gets 9 out of 10. And the Insane version gets a 7. It's a very much by the numbers kind of remake. The definition of the word safe. So, until next time, my wonderful lads, lassies, and everyone in between, take care.
You know what? I'm done. Fuck you and your orphanages.